send us comments.
They should be able to.
Okay, for the two or three people that are watching this, our speaker is running behind, so we're gonna have probably a pretty small class tonight, but still should be really good. Just hold with us, probably minutes before we really get into the meat of it. Yeah, that's all I've got for now.
And let's add a link onto the Slack channel, which we're doing right now.
Sure I spoke to that one there. Yeah, when you put the link in the Slack, and just let them know what's happening. We're gonna try this chili. There you go. So.
What is on your computer to copy? Alt
So
C.
you have Control C. How many people are in the queue?
Yeah, I'm talking around, I guess.
You guys come all the way from Reno today?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, you're
It's going to be good. Matt better show up and try to get some one-on-one time with Moving while she's here. That'd probably be a good use for you guys time.
Slack on your computer. I'm looking for it.
Adam, did you guys follow up with Matt from the insurance EC?
Yeah, we're gonna Thursday morning. We're gonna call them.
Perfect. Okay.
How do I open Slack on your computer?
What's up?
How do I open Slack on your
Which
computer?
one?
This one? That's it?
Just look at the browser.
So is this every
Oh, in
week
the
you guys drive up?
Yeah, well, 3 weeks so far. That's the plan. Matt's in Oakland.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's local.
You guys know each other from former ventures? Or?
Zach and I met more recently. I've known Matt since we were 10.
Hmm.
So we count middle school as a venture.
There you go. Yeah. Playground. Would be one.
You know,
So you can actually sell now through the site?
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. Matt? Hey. Brett. Hey, Brett. Nice to meet you. So we're gonna have a small crowd here tonight, but a little bit of it online, and a little bit in the room. Alright, and so we'll get you set up over here.
Hey. Hey,
Emily,
Matt, nice to meet
Matt,
you.
nice to meet you. Did you need a computer to use?
I have a computer.
Okay. And if you don't
How you
mind,
doing? I'm doing well.
okay, so we've got 2 viewers watching.
Oh yeah, are you recording it at all?
We are.
I'd love to get a copy of it after you turn. I just love having it.
Sure. Okay, everybody, we'll get Matt set up here, and then we'll get into our program. So this baby.
Yeah, let's get him set up over here.
I didn't see that.
He should be able to connect to the Apple TV.
I don't.
So it looked like he's.
I think-
Well, then I can do it.
First week.
Yeah. Everyone was.
Five
yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, I think one was removed. So yeah, we're running Linux like a nerd. And also.
darn show.
Good, pretty good. Yeah, it's at the third. Is it capital? Grab it for you. Capital S, C, R, B, S,
I'm stand around one side, so.
staring. Hey, what's up? Have a small crowd. I saw you on the list earlier today.
A little late.
Don't worry about it. Everyone's a little late today.
Okay.
Food over there if you're interested.
Brett, do you have Matt's email address or email?
For a
Yeah.
while.
Can we send him a link to
So
go
yeah,
to?
that's like the startups. I've been insurance on the company side on the agency side. So you can over it.
And it's already copied, so just paste it in. Make sure.
So many maps.
So I need some of
Oh, I saw one.
I think whoever wins in this insurance is gonna be the guys who get us. Way more Apple is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard.
it is hard. There's gonna be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Was it a county that's not see? That big part of business processes, get the understanding has being made. How big is that RPS specific market? So this, we're already looking at the small business market, so.
Hi.
employees,
Welcome.
20, premium 60 million a year. You know, so agents cuts are 6 billion.
Hey, so we just get like a billion.
Yeah, we'll be good.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Oh, yeah, I small business.
Right.
Once you move into
Oh,
healthcare.
Oh, yeah, that didn't count healthcare. Like, I think the total market of insurance, I got, you know, it's well.
I got the wrong. Hey, Matt, I got the wrong.
Oh, let's see.
Which was 102 visitor. Sorry, what?
No, 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 it's just thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
102 visitor.
I mean, health insurance makes it less,
RBS visitors.
but it's also saturated. So.
Hey.
Got a winner?
Got a winner.
Now,
Next challenge.
It's not as easy as people think of you like Oscar.
Was only just now. You open that, you,
It's tricky.
Oh, there you go.
yeah.
There is.
Instead of reading two slides.
Yeah.
Is that right? Something like that.
They just leave like crazy. But they're paying claims, I mean, that's where it's a whole different science.
So have they proven out the model yet?
I think they're just live and it's like
Getting more takers than
it's like a really small market.
The message to everybody was,
Yeah, I don't think they hammer it down. They're
I heard
definitely
the Paul Brown
trying
did
to.
this back in the day.
Chili, that's right. The chili was key.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
heard it wasn't good,
It
but
was
he
always,
always makes
it was always, it was all about the chili.
I love the chili.
I have a buddy who's a chip product manager. All that.
Oh, really?
Oscar?
Thank you. Is that-
No, really?
Yeah.
Second week, so we've got a long ways to go, but
Yeah, sure. Someone introducing.
It's good.
At the same time.
okay, everybody that's waiting online, we're almost there.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. We got people struggling in here, but
Yeah, I think it's New York. You're-
And I think when you figure out your, you figure out actually your funnel.
So people complain there isn't echo.
People.
there's a lot.
Echo in the background.
Right.
Okay. That's gonna be
That's what I
tough.
was saying.
okay.
People, you can John.
Alright, so I just.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'll share my screen.
Yeah, okay, right now.
Great. Yeah, I see you.
We got that. Good. Thanks. Make my comfort click. I wanted to do.
And then-
And so we-
And then we'll have you share your screen in the Hangout when you're ready.
How many people actually sign up?
We've been headache. I mean, we've been live.
How's everyone's week thus far?
So good.
Yeah.
Good work on the chili.
Yeah.
So we'll do this later, but I usually like to talk about big wins. So I feel like for you guys, big win getting website up.
Yeah.
People came to the website.
Set it up.
Anything else to report?
Website didn't break.
Website didn't break. And yeah, we'll open it up to everyone here. Brian, tell us about your big wins. Brian's one of our mentors. No, probably from meetups for at least the last couple of years. So. And he's decided to give me a hand here. Entrepreneur, as well as a FinServe guy.
Yeah. So big win would be, so I do wealth tech, if you will, wealth management technology. Big win would be defining our product and kind of having some really compelling elements, the cave product piece of it, compelling elements that we're starting to roll out now.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Ito, big wins this week? Ito's a friend of mine. He's known him through the Startup Next program. Been friends for the last couple of years. He's a tech entrepreneur as well. He's been through the challenges of that. Still got one kind of on the, I don't know, I'll let you tell me.
Weird.
Tell more about yourself. Former Intel guy.
Oh, yeah. I used to work at Intel. Software, I haven't really been any big ones.
Yeah.
But
In the process of figuring out what's next. So.
yeah, so I'm in the process. We started a fintech company, and ran into a lot of slang with inflation and all this stuff. So I'm in the process of trying to bring that into.
What area were you working in?
What are those called?
What?
There's a name for the.
Oh, it was sort of like creating a community where people could kind of form and like look at each other.
Okay.
So it's sort of peer-to-peer. So we lending and borrowing money without credit cards and stuff like that. All the issues with that. So it's just trying to get in the back of all the new regulation and stuff like that. Start
Yep.
terrorists.
Of doing potentially some office hours with our companies?
Absolutely. Yeah. So after this, we'll see how much time we have for that today, but we obviously have plenty more time in the future to do some office hours around products. Yeah, I'll give an intro, and then I guess we'll tell more about that. Yeah, no problem. And I don't actually like super long presentations either. I think Q&A is more fun anyway. So this isn't hopefully going to be super long, but yeah, looks like we have NAT isolation on. So background is traditionally I'm an engineer. Before this, I started another company actually in the banking security space. So in particular for unbank, spent a lot of time in fintech and trying to get banks to buy software, which is always really fun. And I think
a lot of you guys might be doing the same thing. And so today what I wanted to talk about is what we educate our clients around when someone comes to us and they say, hey, I have this great idea and I want to build a product and I want to get it to market. How do we take that? How do we actually build something that people are really going to like? And there's sort of a process that we go through, and this is kind of what it is. And so the first thing when it comes to sort of product market fit is answering some really basic questions. And I'm sure a lot of you guys already sort of know this. Just there's sort of this flow of the typical South Park meme, right? And it's that middle question of how do I get my customer to pay for something? And we want to know, yeah, we have the greatest product in the world, but how are they going to pay for it? And we answer those by figuring out who is that customer and why do they care? Why would they care about building something that I'm building? Because when we're building a product, we have a tendency to get really excited about it. We think it's going to change the world. It's going to be really fantastic. But often, frankly, our customers don't care. And we want to make them care. So I've sort of put together what I like to call, it's this checklist. It kind of goes through a few things that I think are really important to figuring out who that person is and why do they care, or how can I figure out what they will care about. And so, of course, the first thing in selling a product is figuring out who that person is, who is that ideal customer, and why are they going to buy my product. And often when somebody comes to us and they say, hey, I'm trying to sell this new product, they give us a few frames of reference. Often they're pretty vague and they're pretty broad. And this is something that we like to avoid. Really broad terms of people that I can't identify. I certainly can't find them on LinkedIn, and I won't be able to tell my sales team to sell to them. So we really encourage people when they're thinking about who our target customer is to target someone really, really, really specific. Somebody who you can identify with a long list of key metrics that you can actually target and sell to. And this is a person that you can visualize. Hopefully you know a few of them. And hopefully maybe you even yourself were one at a previous organization because you're the type of person who would probably use your own software or your own platform, whatever you're building. And so this is a target customer profile that we try to hone as specific as possible. And one thing actually I want to point out here is location. Often when we're selling software, it doesn't matter where they're based in many cases. I actually disagree with that in a lot of cases when we're just starting out, because network effects are real. And when we're working on selling to a broad range of users, it's really helpful to sell to one of them because they can then help sell your software to their friends and their colleagues who have a broad range, broad network, but it's probably in the same area. And it actually really helps to start in a small area and expand from there. So the second thing that we like to focus on after identifying that who is figuring out what the value statement is. Okay, great. So we know who that person is. Why do they care? What about the product is going to actually make a compelling sale? And it sort of comes into two different pieces. It's that why, or whatever it is, because we're all pretty selfish and that's how life works. And they can take your product. So I use the sales, and you'll see I'm going to keep using the sales example because it's actually a product that we were building a little while ago. I'll talk more about it in a minute. But if I'm selling to an inside sales manager, for example, that person, if they can increase the performance of their team, is going to get a bonus at the end of the year. And they're going to love the fact that my product helped them get there. In fact, not only are they going to do that, but they're going to tell their friends and their colleagues. And it'll develop this amazing network effect where my product can become the tool to help sales managers exceed in their careers. And that's something that I think we forget about, the human element of creating value. And we're people at the end for, say, an inside sales manager, and they have budget, they have authority, but the need isn't really there, nor is the timeline. Vice versa for, say, a sales development rep. So thinking about who are all of the components that need to come together to actually make a compelling sale, and designing a product that every single one of those people can get excited about is how we can actually create a product that people are going to love to use. And this, it's like almost this backward approach here. Back in the day, we always used to say we write this 10-page business plan, we do all this stuff, then we build this product. It was fantastic. And then, Paul Graham says, oh, I don't need business plans. Business plans are old. I think we want to come to that happy medium of, yes, we shouldn't spend years and money building 100-page business plans, but we should be building a plan for that first user and that first customer, and starting with just the core minimum of what we need to actually get a product out there in the market. And so I like to say, if we're building something and trying to actually create product market fit, what's that one customer? And it's customer, not user. One customer may have very many users. And if one customer has 5 or 6 users that you actually need to target, maybe that's too complicated. Maybe we need to start with a simpler customer. One value prop, and only one value prop. It's really challenging to think about a product in its early days that has no real traction, and think about it does this for these people, this for these people that are unrelated. That's a really, really hard sell. Absolutely one go-to-market strategy, because if we're trying to execute, we're small companies. We're trying to execute 10 strategies at the same time, trying to attack all these different angles. It's never going to work. And again, I like to emphasize location, because we are humans and network effect is key. people said, oh my God, I would love that today. Some people said, I don't really like it. And it really depends. And we've done this for other products. And sometimes it's not super receptive. And they say, yeah, I'm not really interested in it. And that's okay. And that takes that iteration to figure distinction there. Number one, they're easy. I don't know if any of you are designers, and it doesn't matter. You can still make one of these. I'm not a designer. I make these all the time. They're great. And they started on napkins because all good products start on napkins. So I was sitting in Twitter once with a potential customer from Twitter, wireframing this out on napkins. And he was an inside sales rep, and I just showed the napkin. Like, what about this? What if I did something that kind of looked like this? And he said, yeah, that's good, but I don't kind of like that, whatever it is. Go through that process, went through a stack of bar napkins, and eventually had something that got him pretty excited. And then we moved into, this is a tool called Balsamic. There are 1,000 tools out there, but again, there's no substitute for paper and pen. And you can draw this stuff out and show it to customers. Oftentimes this happens, and like the big takeaway, by the way, this whole section is everything that you do internally, show it to customers. Don't do it by yourselves, and then after the whole thing is done, open the lid and say, all right, customers, what do you think? And it's not going to land. You want customers to be involved every step of the process, and it gets them more excited. So with this, you can iterate, yeah, it looks like this. Oh, no, it doesn't work like this, etc. And finally find a user experience that kind of makes sense for those first customers, which can number in the 5s, the 3s, like, does not need to be very many. And then after that, high fidelity designs. So this part gets a little trickier, especially if you don't have a designer on your team, but you should. And if you don't, hire us or hire somebody. But you need to have a designer. And if you're doing something that is customer facing, it's certainly not required, but we think it is because we think that design is one of the key ways that a lot of companies are innovating these days. And crappy design is sort of the hallmark of a crappy product in 2017. And so we hope that a good high fidelity design can really get people excited about something, even if they can't use it. So to give an example, if a wireframe is what we just saw, a high fidelity design sort of more looks like this. It's an image, it's a picture. I can't click on that, it doesn't actually do anything, but it shows what the product looks like. And when people start to see this, they have a better feel of what they might be buying 6 months from now. The cool part is, as you've been working with the same customers throughout this process, they get really involved in watching the product evolve. And that's really cool because they saw those bar napkins, then they moved to Balsamic, then they moved to this, and they're seeing it's not even it's your idea anymore. It's almost their idea. It's our idea together. And they get so excited about, like, wow, we're building this product together. And it allows you to understand the exact types of things that they'll want and the types of things that they will potentially ultimately buy. So still going through that iteration process, asking your customers what they want, getting their feedback, getting managers' feedback, whatever it is. Notice, by the way, we haven't written a single line of code. Nothing works yet. Haven't built any real product. All we've done is make a bunch of pretty pictures. But this process, like by this point, timeline-wise, 4 months, 3 months, at least. Like it was a long time. We could do it faster, but we really wanted to get it right. We wanted to build something that people could get excited about before we actually wrote any code. Then eventually we get to the part where we can start building a prototype. Something that's simple. It's probably not going to look like a design yet, but it's going to get those core features out the door and start testing some of those hypotheses. hypotheses around if your product needs to integrate with something, if it needs to integrate with some third-party system. That potentially is really hairy. Testing that out at first, so you're not dead in the water when you actually spend a bunch of money trying to build something and you can't even do that integration or whatever that is. So prototypes, we think, are a great way to deal with some of those high-risk problems that can plague products early on, get that out of the way, and move into some of the greater nuances. After prototypes, there's the infamous MVP. And the reason I say infamous is because I think people often forget the M part of the MVP, which is the minimum viable product. And that doesn't have every feature that you dreamed of. It's just the very, very, very core of what a product should have. And I like to quote Paul Graham a lot because he's one of the, I think, founders and champions of a lot of these ideas. Steve Blank is another one of those who wrote the 4 Steps to the Epiphany, which is the kind of reference material on this sort of stuff. But the quote there is, if you're not embarrassed with the first version of your product, you waited too long to launch. And you should always be really embarrassed about what you're launching. But here's the thing. If you've been working with customers every step of the way, they're never going to be embarrassed because they saw it go from where it was to where it is today. They're never going to be, what is this piece of crap? It's going to be, wow, like first we were looking at napkins and now we're looking at something I can actually use. That's exciting, even if it breaks all the time. But you want to get their feedback on it as soon as possible, because if you spend a lot of time building something and not getting their feedback, it's probably going to be wrong. So yeah, those are sorts of, going through that process is how to get to something that people can ultimately become proud of. And the best part of that is, guess what? When you launch, you already have your initial users. That whole, okay, we built this product, now we need to go get a bunch of users. You don't have to, they're already there. You have that email list, you've been collecting those users the entire time. You can now reach out to them and say, congratulations, the product is launched. Wallets, please. And a lot of them, then you can start testing a pricing strategy too, how much will you pay, all of that, asking those questions along as you go. But it makes that initial sell so much easier. And it makes all the difference between launching with something that someone's never seen before and actually having them a part of the product process. So yeah, we think it's important to bring them in every step of the way. And there are a number of ways, in addition to everything that I've said here, to engage with your customers. And another kind of Paul Graham shout out, there's a great article, if you haven't already read it, called Do Things That Do Not Scale. Here's a list of things that we did as part of this process, and it's in no way exhaustive. As we were doing this, again, very little product had been built. Calling them, going over there, sitting down with them. I can't count the number of times I sat looking at a user using, even clicking on through wireframes or using a prototype, sitting there pulling my hair out thinking, oh, that's not how we designed it. That's wrong. Like, what are you doing? But you'll never know that unless you look at them. And we do this on behalf of a lot of our customers. We were working with Stanford recently. We did a lot of user testing in person, in their office, watching them, holding our breath, but seeing them use it. There is no substitute. But crazy things like we gave, I didn't even put that in there. We gave people plastic trophies. We sent them plastic trophies after the first round of users had used the product, thanking them for using our product and sort of dealing with all the bugs and suffering through all these initial product problems. And eventually I went over to Intercom. I don't know if you guys know Intercom. They're one of the early users. And it was a different slide. And we took this picture. Like, here's the inside sales team with one of those silly plastic trophies. Like, no one takes pictures of their customers together. And I just want to point out the absurdity of that, of going over to somebody's office and actually sitting down with them, having a group photo with them. It's like another level of relationships that I think it's lost. And as you're building that initial product, to make your customers your advocates, because your customers are the best salespeople you will ever have in your entire organization. So there's no reason not to equip them with the tools. I don't care if it's plastic trophies or whatever it is, but give them the tools that they need to go out and sell your product, because it's going to make all the difference. The last thing I threw in here right before I set up, I was walking out the door right before I came over here, I walked out of the office and I saw, oh yeah, actually I'll skip that for a second. So I was walking right out of the door and I saw this. Oh no, maybe my picture won't work. Let's see if it works. Show anyway? Yeah, maybe. Let's see what happens. It's blank. Oh, well, too bad. Didn't load. Oh, well. Yeah, I should. Well, it was a picture, and it was a billboard by Salesforce. And the billboard said something, I'll just read it to you, because I don't want to mess up their quote. So I walk out, and just sitting on the back of a newsstand, and I just thought it was really applicable to sort of what we were talking about. And it said, so they have these all around, know each customer like a good friend, and make sure they feel the same way about you. And of course, I look at this billboard, and then I look up and I see Salesforce Power. Now, I don't know if there's a correlation there between that methodology and the biggest building on the West Coast currently, but I think there's something to be said about that. And now this is kind of ironic coming from Salesforce. It's actually a terrible user experience. Better for us. But know your customer, and they know exactly what they want. Okay, they actually don't quite. They'll say a lot of things, and some of those things are right. Some of the things are a little crazy, and that is what makes us great entrepreneurs. But it's taking those needs, it's taking those things that keep them up every single day, that drive them absolutely crazy, and distilling those into something that they're actually going to pay money for. And if you don't ask, you'll never know. That's my presentation. Thanks, guys. Questions?
Yes, in terms of the team that you put together of clients.
Yeah.
How do you engage them initially? Do you find that a lot of people fall off after kind of, you put something out there and get their feedback, and how do you prep them for this as an ongoing relationship
Sure.
as opposed to a one-off transaction?
Yeah, I think two things. The first is it depends on, first you gauge that level of excitement. So in that initial call that you have, just that one-off engagement, some people are very clearly not interested. And that's great, because that's evidence to show that they may not be interested in the product. Maybe not, it's hard to say, but at first you realize, okay, this is somebody who may not be a long-term customer fit. But a lot of those people, because they can get really excited about the idea, do want to engage long-term because they want your product and they want to use it. And because they get so excited, because if someone called me up and said, Matt, I'm currently working on a flying car and it's going to cost $10,000. Do you want it? You damn well believe I'd be talking to that customer or that entrepreneur every day until he had the flying car, because that'd be awesome. And it's about that level of excitement that they get from hearing that initial pitch, or even as it goes on. And then, like any good funnel, you get that drop off. You say, top of the funnel, you get 100 people. You say that initial email blast. Some percentage of them come back. They say, hey, I'm interested in chatting. And then slowly they drop off. And you start to realize that's part of also identifying that target customer profile, because you start off with a hypothesis of like, oh yeah, it'd be great. I'm thinking just to use the same metaphor, inside sales people, org size between X and Y, whatever it is. And then you realize actually they're not going to do it. Those three things, the needing to sell a sales ops, a sales manager, and an inside salesperson, we didn't even know that until like 3/4 of the way through that process. We just thought, oh, it's still the one person, easy. And then we started realizing, crap, these people don't have budget. Like they can't pay it. They love it, but they can't write me a check. So we realized we need to sell to other people too. And so it was part of learning about that. And then we would try to reach out, hey, can we talk to your boss? Some people, nah, not really. So, well, they dropped off. And that's going to naturally happen until you end up with, hopefully, 3, 5, this doesn't need to be a big number, but that initial, just a good handful of people that you can send plastic trophies to, we think is like a great start. So, yeah. Any other questions?
I wonder, let me see if I can, enunciate well. How do you balance, I'm really a big fan of, program and do things that don't scale.
Right.
Telling people, to get out there and do these things that don't scale.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that with almost, you've got such limited time and
Right.
money, right?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it, first of all, they don't have to be expensive things.
Yeah.
And so the money thing is like, I remember we were, one of our salespeople took one of our potential customers out to dinner, and it's sort of an expensive restaurant. The whole time I was like, oh, I don't think he's a good fit. Like, I don't think he's actually using the product, and I'm sort of sweating over a $200 bill or whatever it is, which isn't even that much. But you think about these things, right? And I think that it's time. Time is the big resource that you want to put into this. But again, to quote Paul Graham, right? It's building stuff, talking to customers. Those are the two. And if you're not doing those two things, nothing else is useful. And I think there are exceptions to that, of course. But the primary thing here is you should be investing as much time talking to customers as you absolutely can. And if you're not building your product, if you're not sitting down either drawing things on napkins or writing software or whatever it is, or integrating into systems, it's visiting their office and doing it. I think it's worth every minute you put into it. I really do.
So what would you suggest for these guys so you can give a little overview company and kind of where you're at?
Yeah, so it's a little different than kind of what you were talking about. It's size. It's B2B, but it's small business.
Sure.
So in some ways, the marketing I think is going to be closer to B2C.
Okay.
We're doing small business insurance sales online, so kind of like a kayak like experience.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I mean that's basically what we're doing.
Okay.
And we're just gone live. This week.
Nice. Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So very excited about that. But in terms of new customer acquisition, we're kind of at the beginning.
Yeah. So these would be small businesses. So then I'll just go through my checklist. So what's the ideal customer profile? Like, who would be that first type of small business that would say buy this type of insurance? Like, I'm a small business. I buy insurance. We have probably 6 different policies. Like, what type of insurance would you be buying?
Yeah, so we're launching with workers' comp.
Okay.
And we're primarily focused, or our ideal customer would be small business, less than 20 employees.
Okay.
Typical Main Street business, meaning restaurant, retail shop.
Mm-hmm.
Those lines.
Okay. So I guess like the first thing that I would do is even pick one of those, restaurant or retail. No reason to go after both. Pick one. Doesn't really matter which. But that's a great hypothesis to test. You can try both at first and see which one really gets excited about it. So restaurants absolutely need workers' comp. Everyone technically needs workers' comp, but like in terms of the ones, I feel like restaurants would probably go for it first because of all the regulations. Retail, less so, but I guess you guys probably know more than I do. Sending that first email of, hey, how do you buy insurance today? Or do you have workers' comp insurance? Finding those people on LinkedIn if it's this founder of a restaurant or a retail, or just walking in the door, walking to therapy. Hi, hey, how you doing? Are you the manager? Yeah, I'm the manager. Do you guys, you have workers' comp? Yeah, we have workers' comp. How did you get it? And asking them about that in person at the business and going literally door to door down, Powell Street into each one of those and asking them how they got their insurance, where they found it, how much they paid, I assume would be a key there too, right? Like I imagine you guys probably save more money by like comparison shopping, maybe. Yeah. Save money in your plan. Fair enough. So asking, hey, how much are you guys paying, sort of thing, and then asking like, would you? So everyone knows kayak. That's a great example. I love that, and because it's something they can visualize. And if they say, oh yeah, I got insurance, I called State Farm and they got me a policy. I don't know if it's the best policy, but it's the one I got. And you'd say, well, we're actually introducing like a kayak for workers' comp insurance. Would that be something that you might be interested in checking out or giving us feedback on, and seeing how many people say yes and seeing how excited they get about that? And if they don't, then try different verticals. Try restaurants. Try whoever it is. The thing there is, if they have a workers' comp policy already, you really want to go for the people who don't have the policy yet.
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
That would be the easiest sell. The fact that they have a policy already doesn't mean policy.
Of course. Yeah. It's just thinking about, making your life easier. So,
absolutely.
Finding like, okay, well, who is shopping for policies? Where do those people live and how can I find them? So I'm thinking like, and I don't know if I necessarily have an answer to this, but like, where would a restaurateur who is about to buy a policy, or someone who's about to buy a policy but hasn't yet, where are they right now? Where do they live? And maybe it's like talking to like an incorporation lawyer or see if he can even give some referrals, because that's like, one step before the process. They just got their paperwork going, but they don't have a policy yet. Or talking to like some channel partner through there just to get some intros, to people that are starting a restaurant, and then go that way. So that's another example.
Some of the question I wanted to ask that kind of goes into this is that idea of having one value prop.
Yeah.
When do you focus on that? Do you almost do A/B testing on value props?
Mhm.
Because,
Yeah.
like in those first conversations, when you say focus on one, you're just saying for that conversation.
Yeah, it's like both, or maybe actually more. It was more like at the end, that's all said and done. The output of this should be one value prop that to focus on and build. So yeah, it's figuring out because the problem is you might have 5 different ideas of what people get excited about and what they'll end up buying, but it's really hard to say which of those is going to be the most compelling of those, say, 5 value props. So for you guys, it might be saving money. It might be, just being able to have transparency in pricing. It might be the fact that you guys can have a policy written in under 24 hours or even instantly. Like these are different value props that all of which could be equally valuable, but it's really hard to say without talking to somebody, knowing like which single one of those is going to be the like 72-point font on your homepage that's like get a quote instantly, or save 15% by switching to kayak insure, or whatever it is. And so I think those are the sorts of things to test out. And then when you start honing that down into everyone can really rally behind one message, then it's like going kind of full into that one, seeing if it works. And then if it doesn't work, okay, well that didn't work, then circle back and try it again.
Right.
Yeah.
And just one comment to this. So A/B testing, right? You need to have a lot of data points to actually do it properly. So since you're still in this stage, we think that don't scale all of this test and meaningless.
Yeah, well, I just meant for kind of qualitative.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's all going to be qualitative
So
at first.
first, it's basically again just figuring out what is one thing, right? Do it.
Yeah.
And then down the line you will find data points. Oh, we actually need to change the location.
Yeah. Cool.
I have a question regarding building an MVP.
Yeah.
More like technological thing.
Sure.
So, for example, in my vision as a startup, you want to build something that wasn't possible to build like 3 years ago.
Sure.
Right? Otherwise, somebody will be already
Sure.
on the market and so on. So, how to find the sweet spot in terms of technology stack? Should you change like, oh my God, we'll just use this new
that like your app is super fast. Like if you're doing real-time computation of something and that requires some really awesome tech somewhere in the back end, then figuring out the right tech for that job, I think, is the most important. But for an MVP, it's all about getting it out as quickly as possible, spending as little time. So if you're comfortable with doing something that you already know and that you can work really fast in, I would say do that, because you're probably just going to get rid of it later. And like we are fans of, after those initial questions are answered, using something that's going to be maintainable and scalable, and something that is relatively modern, because then you also start to get into hiring too. So you hire your first 2 to 5 engineers or whatever they are, and you say, yeah, these are the technologies we use. Maybe they can get excited about those, maybe they can't. That becomes a problem too. So that is something to keep in mind, of like using things that are at least relatively modern, because people do care what they work on. And but I think like at this point we've come to, if you use like some relatively modern technologies, again, like we use React on the front ends, or API layer can be kind of anything. It usually does a pretty fine job. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question?
Last week in relation to doing pitches, we talked about whether to use metaphors like we are the Uber for X. What's your feeling about doing that for marketing?
So yeah, for actual marketing.
Yeah, for marketing.
So some people hate those things, some people love them. I think they're really great at explaining, like those initial phone calls that I was talking about. They're really great at that because if you have a good metaphor, like if you actually have something that gets the point across, it doesn't lead someone down some path. They're great for making that jump. I don't think they're ever good for something that's going to be like on your website or actual proper marketing copy or like something that you're going to be handing out that's going to be public facing. Those are more conversations that I would put out, that I would have kind of one-to-one, getting the idea across. The marketing should really be about we've like really distilled down like the proper 1-2 punch when it comes to when you say marketing, are you talking about like website hero or something like that? The website hero, in my opinion, it's the 1-2. Like learn how to fly, blah 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 gives you wings so you can do X, or the thing I gave earlier, increase leads by 300%. Dash Tab is a plugin that lets you ding while you ding, and it's like very very formulaic, and I think that marketing copy has been really effective. And then the next thing is showing it with pictures or screenshots so they can understand. I think putting sort of Uber for X, it does your brand, like on the actual website, I just feel like it does your brand a disservice. It's just not fair to your own company. Yeah.
Question from the audience. What tools do you recommend for surveying a mass audience?
Ooh, good question. So there are a few. We use, actually, let me clarify. I don't know if there's any bidirectional communication in the phone, but I was going to say, would that be like an in-product survey, or would that more just be like, I want to send a survey out to just an email list? While we wait.
Probably. So here's the other.
I was going to say, while we wait for that, I can just answer both of those if it matters.
What was your question? Whether
like in-app, so for instance, I mentioned Intercom. That's actually a great opportunity for in-app questions. If you have a bunch of users using a product and you want to know what do they think about this feature, you can actually pop up little surveys and do things that way. Honestly, if you want, and it depends on size too, by the way. If we're talking about 20 people or we're talking about 2,000 people, like those are very different answers. I think we're probably just talking about 20 people or to 100 people. It really doesn't matter for other types of surveys. We use Google Forms for a lot of things. And the great thing is we actually just launched a product recently. We put a banner at the top that said, hey, welcome to the new website. Click here to take the survey. You click the survey, it opens up a Google form. They fill it out. It's pretty simple. And there are other ones. Typeform's pretty cool too. Wufoo, any of your like standard form generators. The one thing I'd add to that is try to get some contextual information if it is about a product in the form. So for instance, what screen were they looking at? What's their browser? Were they logged in? Do you know their email address? It'd be nice to know that too. Like try to get some of that information in the actual form so you can figure out what is this person even talking about. The last thing, this is a little bit of a tangent, like it's not exactly like asking feedback, but it's an amazing tool that I think you all should check out. It's called Inspectlet. It is a near real-time screen capture software for web and mobile apps in JavaScript. So I emphasize that because this is, and now you're going to freak out, oh wow, all the websites are using this. Yeah, they probably are, and they probably are recording you. It's not something that you have a customer or client install. You go to the website, like a customer goes to your product, and then you get to watch a video of them using your product live. And it's amazing because there's no substitute for watching someone's mouse move around and fail to click on things, and you're like, wow, we really screwed that up, didn't we? Yeah.
What was the name of that?
Inspectlet.
Does it work for web services as well, or just?
Web.
There's a bunch of these out there.
Yeah, there are a few. This is the cheapest one, which is awesome because they can get really expensive. This one's like really reasonably priced and actually works very well. Like it works by web services, but are those like user facing? I mean, more like it works for like web apps, like really rich web apps. That it works great. They have a version for mobile apps as well. So like just getting a video of
You guys can see where the fall off is, where people aren't going to the form.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you recommend Intercom for these guys?
I mean, depending on what you're trying to do, but yeah, I think intercoms are great if you're doing like in-app engagement. Is really intercoms thing. So like, if you want to know, so if you're trying to figure out like funnel optimization, like in-product funnel optimization, intercom's pretty good. There are a few of those. There's another one. Oh man, green logo. I'm forgetting. It's a weird name. It will come back to me in a second. I'll let you know. But customer success to Tango. Customer success software, and that's all. They're also kind of expensive, but it's all about that funnel optimization and figuring out where people are dropping off. And by the way, Google Analytics actually supports that. A lot of people don't realize it, but like tagging all those things, they have a really comprehensive funnel tracker in Google Analytics. And if you tag your events with the API, you can see, wow, you have massive drop off on whatever that was. So
Another tool is Hotjar.com. Again, funnels, all of that was working near real time, but literally just looking what people are doing.
nice.
But I don't know the pricing structure. I used them when they just launched, but they were like
Yeah.
figuring out the pricing point. So was it free, all of the features? Right now, I guess it will be just maybe one website will be free, but if you want to do more.
What was the name of that again?
Hotjar.
Yeah, there are a lot of these things.
There
out
are a lot, yeah.
There are a lot. Yeah,
It's
it's
around the space.
definitely worth checking out. But yeah, I mean, just figuring out. I love InspectClip because it's simple. Like the thing about the funnel optimization is you could spend all month. I mean, this is a full-time job, right? Like director of customer experience. You have people literally spending their entire full-time job tracking and testing different funnels. But like nobody's got time for that right now. So really what it's about, I think, just watch some videos and sit down, and just be like, what's going on? Then, of course, as things progress, you get more sophisticated and you get some really cool tech. But like most people don't even have the traffic to merit that because you had 20 user sessions. Like I can sit down and watch 20 user session videos. Yeah, any other questions? Good. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. So with our remaining time, we'll probably spend at least half of it. So Matt, if you're ready to.
Yeah, we got some time. Yeah.
I was wondering, Anton, do you want to maybe work with one-on-one with Matt for a bit? Is there anything that your user interface and your product is like that?